Hey everybody, we're going to continue our overview of the computer science unit in Code Combat. Today we're going to be looking at a few new operators that we can use in our if statements. So let's begin. I thought it might be helpful to do a little quick review of the operators that we've been using in our conditional statements, statements that begin with the word if, if. Now we've used the equality operator, the double equal signs, in prior levels to test our conditional expressions, our if statements. And the equality operator checks to see if the values in our conditional statements on either side are equal. We normally are comparing two different entities. They could be strings, they could be variables, they could be numbers. The expression, it returns true if they are true and false if they're not true. Okay, so it's easy to confuse the equal signs in our programming endeavors. A single equal sign isn't actually used to compare values. A single equal sign is used to assign values to variables. In other words, we want to set up a variable with a certain data value, and we'll use the single equal sign to do that. That's called the assignment operator. We're familiar with that. For if statements, we want to use a double equal sign. We want to use two equal signs. So let's review the different operators we've seen so far in our conditional if statements. We have already spoken about the equality operator, and that works with text strings or numbers. We've seen the greater than symbol that works with numbers. We've also used the less than symbol, again works with numbers. We can also combine these symbols with a greater sign and an equal sign to do a greater or equal to, and that works with numbers. Less or equal to works with numbers as well. So now we're going to look at a few new types of operators that we can use in conditional statements. So the first operator we're going to be looking at is the not equal sign. So back in Code Combat, I'm in Computer Science 3, and I'm looking at level 21 called Useful Competitors. Okay, and what this is asking me to do is to defeat the ogres, and it wants my hero to pick up all the coins. It says the problem is there's going to be vials of poison that are mixed in with the coins, and we need to check the item's type to make sure that our avatar doesn't pick up a poison, which could cause damage to their health or kill them. So I'm going to start the level and take a look at the code what we have. So it's so important, as always, to read through the comments before we start coding anything. And the comment at the top on line 1 says, the coin field has been seeded with vials of deadly poison. Ogres are attacking while their peons are trying to steal your coins. So what the code is that we've been given now, it's set up a while true loop, our game loop, and then the first thing that the hero does is find an enemy. If there's an enemy, it attacks the enemy only if the type is not equal to peon. So we have two if statements, one underneath the other. One is it's called a nested if statement. We've seen these before. In other words, if this first if statement is true, the second if statement is then checked, and if that second if statement is true, then we do something. Otherwise, if the first statement is true and the second statement isn't true, we don't do this. If the first if statement is not true, we skip all of this completely. Okay, so it's just making sure that first we have to determine whether we have an enemy in the first place. There's no reason to check a type if we don't have an enemy. So if that's true, then we're going to proceed and check the enemy type. Now let's take a closer look here on line 8. We're using what we call the inequality operator, which is an exclamation mark followed by a single equal sign. And what that is saying is not equal to. So it's the opposite of the equality operator. It's the evil twin, you might say, or the negation of it. So if this is saying if the enemy type is not equal to peon, attack the enemy. Okay, and once these if statements are done and checked, we are going to find the nearest item. Now what they're asking us to do is, if there's an item, we're going to gather the item only if the type is not equal to poison. Okay, so let's code this. And to code it, we can really just use the previous example that they gave us as a model. Okay, so let's check to see if the item is not equal to poison. So we're going to obviously have to start with an if statement, and this is an if statement that's nested underneath our if item statement, because we have to first ascertain that we actually have an item. So item, and then the item is our object, and then its property is going to be type, and then we're going to code the not equals symbol, the not equal operator, and then we're going to, in quotes, type poison. Okay, so because they're telling us it's a string in this case, they made a point to surround it with quotes. We know it's a text string, it's not a variable, and our examples of variables can be seen previously. Item and enemy are variables. Okay, they do not get quotes, but it's not asking us to compare variables. I'm going to get rid of this little pass thing that they gave me. I don't need it. Make sure that that I'm indented here. And then I'm going to need to gather the items. So to do that, I'm going to need to move to the item. And we'll use our hero XY function. Okay, now how do I know where the item is? Well, it's pretty easy. I mean, I could hard code the item's positions, but why do that? I already have that information. It's in the item variable. All I have to do is use the type's position. Okay, so position itself is a property, and but it's also an object that has its own properties. So the way I'm going to attack this is inside my parentheses for my move XY function, I'm going to type in the object, in this case it's item, and then I'm going to type in the POS, which is the item's property, its position, and then I can further specify the position by using periods after each one, item.pos position.x. That's going to give me the x position, and I'll do the same thing for y. So I don't really need to know what the item's position is. I don't have to hard code it, because item is already going to contain that information. All I have to do is access it by using the type property. Okay, and type will give me, I'm sorry, not the type property. All I have to do is access it by looking at the POS property of item. That's the position. Okay, and then I just further qualify that by using X or Y. So I'm going to run this program. Let's see how it works. Okay, so he's encountering an enemy. Now the enemy must be type peon because he's not attacking it. Now this enemy is an enemy. It's not a peon, so he's going to attack it. So not equal to peon. Now the hero is moving to the first item, second item, third item. Something's approaching. It's an enemy for sure, but it must be a peon, because he didn't attack it. Here comes another enemy. This must not be a peon, so he's going to attack it. Now he's moving to the next item, moving to the next item, actually waiting, and here comes another enemy. He was a peon, and this one's an actual enemy that is attacking, not a peon. Looks like we succeeded in that level. Okay, so any questions, let me know. We'll continue on in the next segment looking at Boolean OR Boolean AND.